Okay, we'll go ahead and call this work session order. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. First is the discussion of the formal agenda. Any comments, questions on the agenda this evening? Okay, nothing. And I will note that Commissioner Bangs is out sick today, so she won't be joining us. Next is the agenda review. So we've got the rolling agenda here from April through June.
Mr. Chair, just for you and everyone to know, I'll be gone the next 2 meetings.
Okay,
LTDC meets 5 times a year and meets the last usually last 4th weekend of the month.
okay.
So that's part of it. And then I'll got something else next week. So I know
Well,
you'll.
thank you thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
Any questions on the agenda? Yeah. Anything you want to, anything, a lot of budget.
A lot of budget.
It is that season.
Might be sick during.
That's where the fun is.
Okay, well, if we don't have any questions or comments on the rolling agenda here, we'll go ahead and move on to our main topic of the work session, which is HB 4002-5204A, the deflection program overview on page 3. And I'll turn it over to our Sheriff Matt Phillips.
Yep, and also Lieutenant Kristen Handler.
Kristen Hathaway.
Yeah, he's my partner in justice.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you both for being here.
So we'll tag team this because we're both working real closely on this project together, as well as some other stakeholders. So we have a presentation here for you tonight. We'll start kind of globally from that and work from the, just kind of an overview of the program, and then work towards what we're doing right now to accomplish a deflection program. So House Bill 4002 through the Behavioral Health Division of OHA has this impact grant to award to counties. There's about $21 million that is available. I'll get to it later, but there's the 23 counties that we put in for it. So the next part is the application requirements. We've met the eligibility requirements. So we're coordinating with the right stakeholders and partners. We're going to identify, we know who's going to be eligible for the program. We got to define what a successful outcome is. I think we have a concept of that, and we'll hit that. Then there's other requirements that are pretty consistent with every state program, and that won't be hard to achieve.
Okay.
So we were one of the early adopter counties. We're one of the 23 that submitted a letter. That's good news when it comes grant time. It's a short form application. We'll be able to get the money earlier in April. The project period starts in April. We'll get the money in June. Otherwise, the other counties, it's a different timeline. They could receive money by October. And then the next slide is the per county allocations. And I thought this one was pretty outstanding. We get considerably more money than our peers next to us. I don't know the whole reason for that, but I would suspect that it's probably our good relationship and reputation with the stakeholders that will be giving us the money.
That's great.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Commissioner Johnson, yes.
Thank you. So Sheriff, I've mentioned this before, but I'll reiterate it. When the governor came to Seaside to listen, everybody around that table praised the interaction and the supportive relationship and how effective it was with our law enforcement and our behavioral health and our social workers. So that was before this funding stuff started getting talked about, special. And going to the LGAC and talking repeatedly about how we wanted to be in the game. We wanted to be one of those early adopters. So I love that you've got this here, and so we're in the game, we're getting the money, we're getting it early, and the good work that you did to establish our reputation is recognized and rewarded and funded. Well done.
So, the deflection work group, we've had 2 meetings, but that consists of the required stakeholders. So myself, DA Ron Brown. But.
No, we have it, we have.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
yep.
We gotta work that.
We have the courts on board, that's, Court, Administrator Julie Gradeveld, Amy Baker from CBH, we have the defense representative with Chris Pino, Seaside Police Department with the
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant Guy Knight, yep, and Lieutenant Hanthorn. And then Kristen, you want to take the next couple slides?
So our work group members, we've had our second meeting. And we've just kind of been working through the questions that we know are going to be on the grant and what our program is. And so one of the first things that we kind of tackled is for Clatsop County, what is a good candidate going to look like? And so having that conversation around the table, you know, we kind of talked about how people that are successful in rehab programs, in cutting down their use, or people that have something to lose. And that have made that decision for themselves that it's time to change. So, one of the disqualifiers for being in the deflection program is if the person has other criminal charges, like other victim in the same event, or if they're already on supervision. So this is really going to be those people that aren't already in the criminal justice, our eyes aren't already on them, or maybe they've already gone through our programs and now have gone back out in the community and then they're starting to use drugs again. So those are the people that we're going to target. And talking with CBH, you know, they said that one of the main things is that some of its primary issues are around substance abuse. And so there's not a lot of co-occurring mental health, psychosis, and that type of stuff going on. That would not be a good candidate. So we've kind of recognized that. But somebody that has severe mental illness is not a good candidate for this type of program.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
There's
because
other
they're gonna be a
programs.
lot, there's other programs for them, there's a lot more. And then we're not gonna worry about what their past history is. We're not gonna worry about whether they have a significant criminal history or been on supervision before or have failed drug court. We're not gonna worry about those. We're not gonna have that impact our decision making.
Is this a time to ask about the relationship between this deflection program and drug court, or is that later?
It's, the deflection is like a, if you're looking at a strategic mapping, you know, of our intercept model. So this deflection is gonna be really early before somebody even commits other crimes or gets put on probation and gets put into a drug court. So this is like a pre-program upstream.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
have a little flow chart coming out, kind of show that how this is going to relate to criminal cases down the road, if that's what
Yeah.
it ends up, yeah.
So we have also talked about how who's eligible in that it needs to be someone that's a county resident or transient in our county for our Clatsop County deflection program. Because we're using our Clatsop behavioral health, that their money is coming for our citizens here. And a lot of this money, the state is sending is for our community, our citizens. So there will be other opportunities for people that maybe live somewhere else to get in a deflection program in their county, but we're not going to be responsible for them. Does that make sense? And then they have to have a standalone possession charge, which means that it's not going to be law enforcement that goes to someone's house and they've got child neglect because they've got kids and, you know, drugs around children and things. We're not going to take those people. They're going to get that criminal charge plus the PCS. It would be somebody that just literally the only interaction with them is related to that one PCS charge. Officers in the street, we talked about having a deflection citation or notice for them. The same one throughout the whole county. Those officers will be able to hand that person the deflection notice with their information on it and who to contact. Law enforcement agencies will provide a report and program coordinator within 48 hours, because we want that quick referral, quick engagement with people. And then we will give the individual 7 to 10 days to make contact with CDH. And the program coordinator will help facilitate that appointment. We also learned from this that CBH now has at their Seaside Center down there. It's not a rapid access clinic like in Astoria, but they are taking walk-ins for SUDS treatment. So that's gonna tie with this nicely, and then someone from South County can just go to Seaside, don't have to come all the way up here to Astoria. And that the people up here in the North County can use the rapid access center for their referrals. Yeah.
Do we have the capacity, saying that attorneys want to process all the people you think are candidates for the program?
Well, we have the money with this to be able to hire a program coordinator, to be able to hire another CADC for CDH. The DA's office doesn't think that they need any additional staff right now. The DA's office, I believe, have the same number of attorneys they had back in 2019 and 17 when drugs were illegal. So you're processing all that stuff. So it shouldn't really impact their workload much.
So prior to 2017, drug possession was a felony. And Julie from the state court pulled some data, and we were doing 15 to 20 felony drug arrests a month countywide. And then in 2017, it became a misdemeanor. And then there were also some changes that continued since then that made search and seizure on vehicles and things more difficult. And then we saw the misdemeanor cases filed with the courts go down to like maybe 3 to 5 a month. And then, of course, after Measure 110, it was 0 because it's not a crime anymore. And then we've also had some more challenges to, the search and seizure law. So I think that once this goes into effect in September, there will be a ramp up. It's not going to be all of a sudden there's 100 cases a month. So you still got to respect people's liberties when we're doing our police work, and let's respect their rights. But there will be a slow ramp up, and I think we'll be able to learn as we go.
Thank you.
Part of what our coordinators' job duties is going to be also is to communicate and education for local law enforcement about the program, how to get people in, just getting it on the front burner again. I think it's going to help them make that decision in the field as to whether we'll go deflection or whether this is someone that needs to go to jail. Right out of the gate. So, CADC will do the intake assessment. We talked a lot about what program success would look like, and we kind of decided, falling on 90 days of engagement with CBH will be enough to get this citation that's hanging over their head for the PCS be dropped. If you go and sit in a chair for 90 days or get treatment for 90 days, we feel that's good enough for us to say that you successfully completed our program. Because we don't want to hold people for the whole length of time that they have to be, that they're in treatment or engaged. But a good solid start and then being engaged for 90 days, 3 months is a long time.
3 months with some progress. If they sit and don't engage, just show up, that's not going to count, but they need to show some progress.
We talked about what do we do if the individual that's already in the deflection receives a new arrest or charge for another drug crime or for something else. And we decided they would remain in the deflection program, continue to get that treatment. And because we know that the it's gonna take so long for them to get an attorney and for that to get processed through the court, to get back under supervision or some authority. Someone directing them to get treatment, so we're just gonna keep them moving on a parallel track.
Is this where I asked about, do we have enough defense attorneys?
Well, that's definitely part of it.
We don't
Yeah.
have enough defense attorneys, and that's a good thing about deflection, that
Yeah.
keeps us out of that. Having to tap that.
Manages that workload, does it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Yeah,
All right, so the flow chart, it's pretty easy, but it starts with the officer makes contact with someone that's in violation of possession law. And then we'll provide that, it's really not a citation. We were thinking back to when we used to have written warnings. Something similar, but it'd be for the deflection program. It'd probably have the venue, date and time where, what happened, but also where to reach out to the resources. The address for Seaside, that's where you're probably a contact for our program coordinator. And the whole goal is gonna be to reach out to the person to help them engage.
it also have some data on there that we'll use for later research about, male, female, age.
Yeah.
That type
It'll have all the information.
that we're gonna want to be able to track.
Yeah. We would hope that the law enforcement agency would provide us that citation and the report to the program coordinator within 48 hours. Because if we're asking someone to engage in treatment within 7 to 10 days, we want that coordinator to know in a timely fashion, because it'd be great if everyone would show up on their own, check themselves in for an intake, but we'll also try to reach out to them and encourage them, or help them, break any barriers that they have, transportation, help them problem solve their way into getting engaged. If they make success in contacting that person, they'll help set up that meeting with CBH for the intake. And then, because there is an underlying crime, we'll still report it to the DA's office, with understanding that it's gonna be a no file. It's just for information. But part of this is if the person refuses later on, we can still go back and file the charge to get them into treatment, with the help of the courts and community corrections, right? So if they engage with their assessment, then they'll go to treatment. And if the person continues successfully, the CBH staff will let our program coordinator know that this person has succeeded. And then the law requires that we expunge that record. So the police records related to that contact. Now,
Immediately, does that expungement happen immediately?
yeah, and so it's just the police report, there's no criminal arrest that needs to be removed from LEDs or anything like that.
Oh. Because isn't that one of the big issues right now with expungement, that it takes so long?
It
Isn't
does.
It does,
Because they make
but those are people that have been there, their record is in a lot of different areas. It's at police departments in their records, the report, it's at the DA's office, it's a report. It's their fingerprints have been taken, so it's electronically in their criminal history. So there's a lot of touches, a lot of different people that have to get on the same page
Right.
to wipe all that stuff out. So
But none of that would have happened.
none of that
Okay,
would have happened.
that's-
So it would just be that one
Good.
law enforcement agency in the D's office to get rid of that. Records are going to come back up again.
So if the person fails to engage in the treatment, then we'll be notified and the program coordinator will contact the DA's office and let them know that the person failed, and then file charges. If the DA files charges, there's a couple options. You want to talk about that a little bit, conditional discharge and
Yeah,
those routes?
the DA's office is required by this law to offer a conditional discharge, which is gonna have similar, if they're successful, it also will wipe out their record if they successfully complete it.
What is a conditional discharge?
They don't have to admit that they don't have to say, I'm a felon or I committed a misdemeanor crime. It's a discharge. It is not a crime until they fail.
Right.
And then they get convicted. It's like for DUI, like a diversion. You get a DUI citation, DUI is a crime. But if you take diversion and you're successful, you don't get that crime on your record.
In this case, if that person took that option, they'd be supervised by lieutenant's staff for 12 months to engage in treatment. If they successfully engage for those 12 months, then that record is gone.
Yeah.
And then,
If they fail, they would go to jail for a short period of time. And even while they're in jail, well, first they would get sent, conditional discharge, they would go to their sentencing and they get convicted of the PCS, and they'd come back under our supervision again. If they fail that time, then they would go to jail and have their probation revoked. They could serve up to 6 months while they're sitting in jail. They would have another off ramp to go back into treatment and get credit for jail time while they're doing treatment in an inpatient center or even outpatient. And if they get referred to an outpatient treatment in the community, then they also would be on our roles as far as for community correction. We could supervise them while they're completing that sentence. And again, if successful, there would be the expungement process.
And just to be clear, the nature of the monitoring is through law enforcement, not through behavioral health or
yeah,
help.
well, so on deflection,
For
law
deflection.
enforcement's not involved.
Okay.
That is a relationship where we help steer someone
Yeah.
to CBH for treatment.
Okay.
And then we're uninvolved until we're told they either successfully completed or they failed to engage.
Okay.
And then, the other routes, the conditional discharge, or if they end up being convicted and on supervision, then that's gonna be managed through the community
Yeah.
correctional division.
If they're on community supervision, it's gonna be come to us and we will then be the monitor. We will be the one that's referring them to treatment, doing the UAs, treating them just like we do anybody else that we have on supervision.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to
Yeah.
understand more clearly is that we do have the system of both support and sidebars with the goal out front and consequences all the way along the line.
Yes, and we have that in not just this program, but in all of our community practice programs. All of them have the same goals in mind, helping people change and moving them along that change continuum.
Part of your effectiveness, huh?
Well, we have good staff and good programs.
Next slide, talking budget with, what it looks like we're gonna receive, we could hire a CADC. CADC is a certified alcohol drug counselor for CVH, and fully loaded. That's $90,000 to $95,000 a year. And then, for the community corrections coordinator, fully loaded, that's about $150,000 a year. So monthly budget's about a little over, $27,500, but, we'll have a fair amount to use for materials and services for whatever supplies are needed by the program. And next steps, on the 9th, the Criminal Justice Commission will open up the application for us early adopters. Will be, that actually was yesterday. Yep.
We're already in there.
Yeah, we're already in. So there's a training down in Salem. So several of us are gonna attend that. We're gonna continue our twice a month work group meetings. And once we get this all fleshed out, we're gonna need to develop a procedure manual so that we can do this consistently.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I remember, when I saw, even though this is a big price tag, you look at it going, wow. But there was another thing I thought previously said, if the individual doesn't go through deflection, stays in the criminal system, then the cost was like so much greater to the community. So, people look at this, they have to kind of keep that perspective of, yes, this is expensive to our community. However, if it's successful, it's gonna save taxpayers a lot more in this system.
Yeah.
So,
Community corrections, it's about $15 per person per day. For people who subscribe. And that's And that doesn't cover all of our costs. Because they don't give us enough money to do all the things that we need to be doing. But right now, that's about where it's at, $15 per day. So you add that, 40 or 50 coming in a month, that's a lot.
For perspective, I mean, it's a big benefit to the community and it helps out law enforcement help everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a good program.
Some other thoughts I forgot to mention, in cases even, and this goes to the defense attorney crisis, even cases that, maybe the officer doesn't refer someone to deflection and place them directly into court, the DA would have the opportunity to say, no, I'm not gonna file on this, I want this person to go to deflection. DA Ron Brown seems very comfortable with that, so that's a good thing. So there's multiple opportunities that steer someone into this program.
Yeah.
And, I think we have to have realistic expectations. It's not gonna, it's not a path to sobriety in 90 days for every person, right? But, we're really looking to help them go that way. I'm sure there are people who'll enter this program many times, but, usually we see them improve a little bit every time and make it farther.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like drug court, maybe you could talk about that, but I mean, there's people that fail UAs throughout that thing, and then over the course of a year, now they're not failing UAs anymore, and they found housing, and
Right.
so it's a process.
Yeah, even just the engagement with those services cuts down on their contacts in the community with law enforcement. I know we had a gentleman that was in our mental health treatment court, and when I counted up in our system how many times he had contact with law enforcement, it was like 200 and 300 times, in a couple of years. 200 and 300 contacts with law enforcement. Once he got engaged in mental health treatment and was going to those sessions and had counseling and stuff like that, it dropped down to like just 10 over a year or just a really small. So it will make a difference. Even for our law enforcement, I think once we get people engaged, that it might reduce some of their other calls that they're going to with these people.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
When we're talking with our budget committee, going forward, we don't have a place where we do a kind of a dog and pony show about upcoming trends that are, as you pointed out, required expenditure, but are long-term, very good investments. And it is incremental. They didn't learn the behaviors in a day. They won't cure in a day, but if we can help our budget committee see those longer term trends and what you're doing in the relationship between drug court and health court and deflection and incarceration and all of that, if you can do a concise presentation on that, I think that would help our budget committee understand something. Because you said, half our budget goes to law enforcement. That's a big chunk. And if we can,
Yeah.
sorry, we have the general fund, thank you.
And that's what I don't have any general fund money.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
but you're saving us money and you're saving people's lives and you're helping turn them around to be productive citizens, which is, helps their suffering and our suffering too. So I'd just like to see more highlighting of it, especially with a graphic, if you could, because graphics we walk away and give people the idea about the big picture of our budget activity.
Yes.
I think I've expressed in this room before that this is going to be a real public information challenge. We're going to have to figure out a way to communicate it to our citizens. And, I hope we've got something planned to put PJ and her brilliant people and mentor something that is. I'm thinking of questions, I mean, there are so many times when I go someplace, when I go to church, people say, well, what's this deflection stuff all about? If I have something on my phone or in my pocket, it's really nice. So I hope something cool like that. The other issue that I think Matt and I have talked about before is that I was really pleased in this legislation to see the requirement for metrics. But in a place where we know that our data
Mhm.
on encounters with law enforcement is not something that any of us could.
So we
go-
do have
yeah.
a solution
So-
for that. Yeah, the sheriff's office, worked with and led a team of all the law enforcement agencies in the county to examine a new records management system. And the team met for several months and looked at 5 or 6 different vendors, landed on one called Central Square that seems to be widely used, has all the right tools in it. And then I'll just say I got lucky. Maybe I'm good. I don't know, but we found
We're gonna give you credit, Shelley.
found funding from the state to pay for it for every agency in the county, including us. So that will be in the budget. So and that grant should be going up about June.
Man, why didn't you tell me you had done that?
I don't know. I
You
don't, I
know
don't, I
how
don't put my
passionate I
hand.
am about this, and it's, I mean, it was one of the first things I thought about when I started actually looking at the final
Mhm.
law. Because we know that throughout the state, actually, it's a real, so that's wonderful. That, I'm gonna sleep so much better. And
And-
have you all done any work yet about sort of figuring out what that system specifically for this is gonna look like?
No, that this would be new, but I know that the volume of data that we'll capture in this new program is, exponentially greater than what, and the reports that we'll be able.
Cause that's gonna be
So-
so important.
Yeah,
So important for the long-term funding.
the other thing is related to this is the position that we're looking to hire is more than just a coordinator, it's also an analyst level person. Because there's a lot of analyzing and metrics that we would like to know
Oh, absolutely.
and to look at,
absolutely.
and we just don't have the capacity right now.
Sure, sure. And I'll be looking over that person's shoulder.
Okay.
No, I'm really, really happy to hear that. So that's gonna be terrific for so many reasons.
Got a professional opinion question. So, in a couple of research here, the key thing that kind of stands out is ideal candidates have something to lose.
Mhm.
Is there enough, there's an argument that there should be more to lose to have, the more people have to lose, the more successful a program can be because of more motivation to
Mhm.
completion. Under our current, is there enough motivation with way you, in your professional opinions, to get more people engaged in the system, or is it still as a misdemeanor?
I believe that the law enforcement officers will be motivated to go out and either, well, to search for drugs again and to try to address some of the livability issues related to substance abuse and refer people to this program. And after 10 days, if the person doesn't engage, well, we're gonna file it. And so we're gonna turn up the heat incrementally, but the people that are willing and able to participate, we're gonna try to help them participate on their own.
It's like you and I, getting a misdemeanor or a felony is a big deal.
Yeah,
And it would scare us. We're just not gonna do that because we're not gonna get in trouble,
right.
right? For a lot of people that we have contact with, they don't care.
Yeah,
That's not the bigger issue. The crime, the conviction is not the issue. What's the issue is being on supervision, going to jail, having somebody looking over their shoulder, telling them what they can and can't do. So this deflection, that's another carrot for them that they are, I can send this to the court and you can be convicted and get put on probation, or we're gonna give you an opportunity to do it this way with the rah-rahs and CDH and all their services. So that's a big motivator.
We obviously want success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the rah-rah. How does this interface with those kinds of things?
They're gonna be a client of CDH, so they'll have all the services that CDH has to offer them. The sober housing, all the other services that they have. Their Medicaid assisted treatment, RRRs, just everything.
RRs are great. They come to the jail a couple times a week. I mean, no matter where someone is, they're reaching out, so.
Any other questions, comments, or issues?
Excellent update.
Yep.
Appreciate it very much.
And as far as the education piece, Olivia Palmer with that oriented here, did a good job living in something matters of public interest. I'm sure she can do the same with this. Anything else? We don't have any other items on our work session, so we'll go ahead and adjourn for 24 minutes. Reconvene the regular session. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
The board is interested, we do have a couple executive sessions that we could at least entertain one or two before the.
Sure. Yeah, that works for me.
Not that you don't want to stay later, but.
So I'll have to.
Mr. Thompson doesn't, so. Is Suzanne gonna be here?
Thinking it's gonna be. Yeah.